Doki Doki Literature Club is a nice game where nothing happens. Except everything happens! This fucked up journey into madness disguised as a visual novel is a fascinating game that builds up and shatters your expectations, and one whose self-awareness and dark subject matter has earned it quite a reputation online, with many comparing it to the likes of Pony Island or Undertale. But personally, I think OneShot is a more apt game to compare it to. This little indie title, spoilers, like Doki Doki, has a similar focus in creating a metagame, one whose self-awareness of the fact that it's a game is the foundation from which it builds its gameplay and story. Both exploit the players in different ways to create unique experiences that they won't find anywhere else, and ones that stick with them, either because of the fond memories they've made or the nightmares that keep them awake at night. Together they show the extent to which one can obliterate the fourth wall, and today I want to compare and contrast the different ways Doki Doki Literature Club and OneShot do so, and the art behind their respective metagames. And as mentioned before, spoilers ahead, as well as a content warning for disturbing imagery. To start, I should explain what I mean by a metagame. To put simply, it is a game that breaks the fourth wall and or is aware that it is a game, and whose gameplay and or narrative is built around that idea. Doki Doki Literature Club is a visual novel dating sim about a boy joining a literature club full of cute girls and his attempts to woo them, only for one of the girls to commit suicide and the others to slowly become psychotically obsessed with him, leading to the grand reveal that one of the girls, Monika, had been manipulating the game itself to try and make the player fall in love with her. OneShot, on the other hand, is a simple RPG adventure game about a cat-boy-girl person named Nico, who I'll refer to as she for simplicity's sake, since that's what I assumed when I first played, who wakes up in the middle of a strange, dim world and must help restore its light before it falls apart, only for her and the player to realize that this world is a computer program, which makes one question the point of saving a simulated world full of people who aren't real. Both hide self-aware narratives under their cutesy exteriors, luring you in with their nice artwork before throwing you for an existential loop, when you realize there's more to these games than you realize. However, they each end up taking this idea in different directions. OneShot is quick to break the fourth wall. Once the game starts and you figure out the first puzzle, you're greeted with a computer screen that informs you of your quest to help save Nico, and are told with a command prompt addressed to the administrator name of your computer that you only have one shot to do so, an event that Nico actually references later on. Within only a few minutes, the game lets you in on its secrets, and even more strangely, pulls you, as the player, into the story as a character, as Prophetbot later informs Nico that the player is the god of this world. I'm sure that won't get to our heads. This establishes the tone for the game and throws our expectations of it simply being another standard RPG maker puzzle adventure out the window, leaving us to wonder what it has in store for us. Doki Doki, however, takes its time. Though you get plenty of hints throughout the first act about the dark turn it's going to take, you're easily fooled into thinking that the game is in fact just a standard dating sim. The first 2 hours simply have you getting to know its various characters. Sayori, the ever-optimistic klutz, Natsuki, the cute but hates to admit it manga fan, Yuri, the shy bookworm, and Monika, the popular girl with a passion for literature. You read everyone's poems, listen to their jokes, and get attached to their various personalities. Outside of the strange symbolism of their poems and a weird line Monika reads off about the importance of saving that, taken by itself, can be seen as a goofy joke, nothing seems out of the ordinary. Though it can feel like a slog to go through, you end up letting your guard down as it lulls you into a false sense of security, before it completely shatters that. While OneShot's quick reveal piques the player's curiosity, Doki Doki's long opening gives you plenty of time to become invested in its small cast of characters, so that subsequent change in tone is far more of a shock than it would have been otherwise. Of course, that's not to say that OneShot is unable to get you to care about its characters, quite the opposite. The fact that OneShot makes you a significant part of its world gives you a closer connection to its many characters, because the relationships you end up forming with them are ones you've made with them, not ones your player character has made. This is especially evident with Nico, who you spend the entire game getting to know. There are silly moments where you can get Nico to do a robot voice or get her to ride a Roomba, and ones where you just talk to each other. She tells you about her life back home, how it's surrounded by huge wheat fields, how she's old enough to help out around the village now, and how much she loves pancakes. And likewise, with the various dialogue options the game gives you, you can tell her about your life, whether or not you live in a town or a village, if you have a son in your world, or if you like pancakes, and so on. These little exchanges build a bond between the two of you. One that pulls on your heartstrings when Nico tells you about the nightmares she's had, how upset she is at the idea of never being able to go home to her family, and how scared she is of the paralyzing darkness that consumes her when you X out of the game instead of saving it. By breaking down the fourth wall early on, OneShot directly connects you with its characters. It's a less traditional method than Doki Doki uses, but it's one that works surprisingly well. However, of the two games, Doki Doki's breaking of the fourth wall is certainly the more disturbing of the two. And it only gets more disturbing. From this point on, Doki Doki becomes a horror game, full of glitching visuals, broken displays, and auditory distortions. Characters appear over the text display, the game screws with player options by dragging your cursor towards certain choices, and it uses a lot of detailed and uncanny imagery to frighten you. It even goes so far as to amplify the less than desirable tendencies of characters we thought we'd gotten to know in the game, just to add to the horror. Of course, it's the girl I like that turns out to be a psycho. I mean, it's not a deal breaker, but, you know. Though the game's first act is a chore to get through, the way in which it builds up and tears apart your expectations of it and its characters is a clever twist. But rather than simply flipping it on its head, OneShot uses its meta aspects to enhance its gameplay. OneShot is primarily a puzzle adventure game, so its gameplay focuses mostly on, well, puzzles. There's plenty of basic stuff in the game, but the ones that stand out are the puzzles that ask the player to go through its files to complete. The ones that have you looking through your documents to find text files with codes to open up locked doors and containers. Ones that change your background wallpaper to give you clues. Ones that get you to open up a secondary program on your computer hidden in the game files that gives you hints about how to solve different riddles. And one that has characters from the game turn into folders and makes you move the text files within said folders into another folder in order to open up a locked door. The fact that these kinds of riddles are a part of its main story gives it a unique feeling that helps it stand out. Of course, Doki Doki also has plenty of opportunities for the player to fiddle with game files to find all sorts of different endings and Easter eggs, but its main focus is in toying with the player in-game. OneShot and Doki Doki both take the idea of a metagame in very different directions gameplay-wise, with Doki Doki focusing on messing with its presentation to scare the player, and OneShot getting the player to look outside the game in order to progress through its story. However, narratively, they're both surprisingly similar, at least in regards to their overall message. Now, there is a lot of stuff I could talk about with both these games thematically speaking, so I won't go into too much detail, otherwise this video will never be done. But, to put it simply, both games seem to have an overall message about spending time with loved ones, especially if they're in a rough place. This idea is reinforced in both games through the way you reach their respective true endings. In Doki Doki, you have to get all the CG pictures in the game, which is accomplished by saving and loading at various points so you can spend time with each of the girls. In OneShot, you have to figure out how to return to its world after the end of your first run, and push your way through the Solstice update so you can save Nico and the world, which itself is a character. Sure, it's a lot of effort, but it's something that both games argue is worth it, as it will not only strengthen your relationships with those people, but it's something that can help them as well, as you never know when that time spent together might be the thing that helps them through their day. For as many differences as these games have, they share a good few narrative similarities, which in both cases are only strengthened by their self-aware nature. Meta games are hard to pull off right, but Doki Doki Literature Club and OneShot show us a variety of ways in which it can be done. They break the player's expectations to give you unique experiences that keep you invested in their world, characters, and stories, and in doing so make their messages and themes of connection and care hit so much harder. Together, they show the potential gaming has as a medium, and the great depths to which it still has yet to be explored. All it takes is for you to think outside the box. Literally. And yeah, those are my thoughts. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff narratively speaking you had to cut from the video because it was just too much to fit in unless I wanted to make a half-hour video. But if you guys are interested in seeing a thematic analysis of Doki Doki or OneShot, or well, maybe not OneShot since he already did kind of do that already, let me know if you'd like to see that. Also, thanks for 500 subscribers, that's awesome! I also want to especially thank Nightmargin for that shoutout on Twitter. I'm pretty sure that's why I'm at 500 now. Anyway, if you enjoyed this and want to see more, then check out my last video where I talk about why Devilman Crybaby's extreme violence, sex, and gore make it so fun to watch. Or check out my video on 2017 where I list off some of my favorite things of, well, 2017. And don't forget to like, comment, share, and of course, subscribe to come fly with me. And hopefully, I'll see you later.